Catherine McKenna's green fantasies will cost you. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. Justin Trudeau's environment minister and the Minister of Climate Change, that's now her full title, is living in a fantasy world. In an interview with the state broadcaster, McKenna said that not only do we need a price on carbon, something she's promised to introduce across the country this fall, but that it needs to continually rise. Check out the comments that she made to CBC Radio. She said, with carbon pricing, it has to increase over time or it just doesn't have the effect that is needed. It just doesn't create the incentive. Let me just translate that. They're going to bring in a price on carbon this fall, and then it will gradually increase time and again. McKenna made the comments after being critical of British Columbia's carbon tax, which has been frozen for several years at $30 a ton. To her, that doesn't do enough. It needs to increase time and again in order to punish you if you're using too much energy, putting on the lights too often, heating your home too hot, cooling it too much in the summer. She wants you to reduce, and she'll do that by forcing you to pay more time and again. But she doesn't actually think it will cost you. McKenna actually said in this same interview, that businesses will just absorb the cost, that they're well suited to absorb this, perhaps ignoring the reality of the fact that businesses pass on the costs that they get to the consumer, meaning in the end, we're going to be paying the full freight. Now, is this reality? Is this something that we can afford? Probably not. But the carbon tax people don't tend to look at reality. They tend to look at what they want and then try and find ways to, get to that end. Philip Cross, a statistician who has looked at the numbers time and again, says that one of the fallacies of the carbon tax, carbon price movement, whether it's among academics or politicians, is that, if you just jack up the price, it won't have an effect on economic activity and people will adapt. Cross, in a piece in the Financial Post about a year and a half ago, was quick to point out that there is a staggering effect on economic activity, but he also pointed out something else, that just because you tax something doesn't mean people use less of it. Advocates of a carbon tax point to British Columbia and the fact that gasoline consumption in that province dropped dramatically after the introduction of a carbon tax. But they only measure gasoline consumption in British Columbia by looking at the amount of gasoline sold in the province. Cross points to a very easily available statistic to point out that cross-border trips from British Columbia to the United States doubled in the years after a carbon tax was introduced, from 3.9 million to 8 million. That is a doubling. Ontario and Quebec, which also share vast borders with the United States, only saw a 17% rise in that same time period. They, of course, had no price on carbon. Philip Cross says the statistics are easy to find. It's just that the advocates don't want to look at them. People have options and they'll find other ways to do what they want. But continually pushing people, continually taxing them, as McKenna says, the price not only needs to be established, but it needs to go up time and again. That will have detrimental effects on the economy. It will change people's behavior, and maybe not always in ways that she wants, ways that she appreciates. It will create a black market. It will create people just deciding not to do certain things, and that will kill off jobs. Remember 2008, the Liberals ran on the idea of a green shift, a carbon tax, a price on everything. Stephen Harper rightly said that that would kill off jobs, that it would be a tax on everything. Now the Liberals are bringing it back by stealth. They didn't run whole hog on a carbon tax the way they did in 2008, but it's coming for you whether you want it or not. The question is, are any of us going to be prepared for the fantasy world that McKenna and her advisors are living in?
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.